before you skip this, before you scroll past, or put this on in the background without really listening. I need you to hear something first. The Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last true hunter-gatherer tribes on Earth, they work about 2.5 hours a day. That is it. 2.5 hours. And they are some of the healthiest, most socially connected, most mentally stable people researchers have ever studied. 2.5 hours. You probably hit that before your first coffee break. So what were our ancestors doing with the other 21.5 hours? That question changes everything, because when you find out the real answer, you do not just learn about ancient people, you learn something about yourself. Something about what your body still remembers. Even now, even after all these thousands of years of civilization and schedules and screens. And tonight, on Deep Earth Stories, that is exactly where we are going. Welcome. I am so glad you are here. If you are watching this at night, maybe lying down, maybe in the dark with your headphones in, then you have already done something very right, because this is exactly how this story was meant to be heard. Slowly, quietly, with nowhere else to be. My name does not matter. What matters is this. For the next little while, I am going to take you somewhere. Far back. Past the cities, past the roads, past the first farms, past the first written words. All the way back to the world our ancestors actually lived in. Not the world of movies, not the dramatic caveman running from dinosaurs. The real world, the quiet world, the surprisingly gentle world of early humans, doing what humans have always done, living a day. Just one ordinary day. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. And I mean this as a real question, not just a dramatic intro line. Drop your answer in the comments right now. I genuinely want to know, if you had no job, no obligations, no phone notifications, no schedule at all, what would you actually do with your day? Think about that for a second, because our ancestors faced exactly that question every single morning for 300,000 years. And what they chose to do, what they actually spent their time on, is not what most people guess. Keep that question in the back of your mind as we go now. Get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Dim the screen if you want to. You can close your eyes. I will still be here. Take one slow breath in and let it go. Good. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Before the alarm, before the clock. Imagine a morning with no alarm. Not the kind of morning where you forgot to set one and wake up in a panic. A true morning with no alarm. A morning where your body wakes up because it is ready. Because the light is changing. Because somewhere nearby, a bird made a single small sound, and your sleeping mind noticed it. And gently, without urgency, you opened your eyes. This was every morning for 300,000 years of human life. You are lying on something that fits the shape of your body. Dried grass, folded animal skin, layers of material that have been adjusted and readjusted over many nights until they feel like yours. The ground beneath is firm and cool. The air smells of ash and earth, and the warm, familiar scent of the peat's mill sleeping close beside you. Because there are always people beside you, that is the first, and maybe the most important thing to understand about early human life. A solitary life, early humans lived in small bands. Researchers who study both ancient fossils and modern hunter-gatherer societies believe these groups were typically somewhere between 20 and 50 people. Not strangers, family, cousins and grandparents and children and lifelong friends. People who had watched each other grow up. People who knew each other's stories, each other's habits, each other's faces in the dark. You woke up surrounded by the people who mattered most to you. No commute to get to them. no scheduling a call, no wondering if they were okay. They were right there, breathing quietly, shifting in their sleep, slowly joining you in the pale light of early morning. This is something the human body still craves, still needs. Researchers have found that loneliness activates the same pain pathways in the brain as physical injury. The need for closeness, for proximity to other people, is not a preference. It is a biological necessity. It is as old as we are, and for most of human history, it was simply a given. You woke up, you were not alone. So what happened next? Probably not very much. This is one of the most surprising and, honestly, most comforting findings in the study of early human behaviour. The morning was slow. There was no rushing, no list of things to accomplish before a certain hour, no pressure to be productive immediately. People woke up and talked, not about strategy, not about plans or problems or tasks, just talked about the dream someone had, about the sound heard in the night, about something funny a child did the day before. Easy, wandering conversation, the kind that goes nowhere in particular and feels good for exactly that reason. And here is a fact that I think about a lot in studies of modern hunter-gatherer communities. Researchers have recorded and analysed thousands of hours of conversation. What they found is that more than half of all daily conversation had nothing to do with survival. It was not about food, location, or danger, or practical planning. It was social talk. Stories, gentle teasing, shared memories, observations about other people in the group. We have always been this way, even before language was fully what it is today, even in the earliest forms of human communication. The primary purpose of talking was not information transfer. It was connection. It was the simple act of reaching toward another person with your voice and saying, "I am here. You are here. We are together in this. You are listening to a voice right now, and in some small, ancient way, something in you recognizes that as comfort. Let your breathing slow just a little. The morning is soft. The fire from the night before has burned to low orange coals. Someone nearby is still sleeping. The world outside, the trees and the open land and the wide, quiet sky is just beginning to fill with light. There is no rush. Chapter 2. The real workday. It was nothing like yours. Here is the number that changed how scientists understood everything about early human life. 15 hours. That is the average number of hours per week the Juahonsi people of the Kalahari Desert spend on what we would call work. Finding food, preparing it, maintaining tools, everything combined. 15 hours a week, in one of the harshest, driest environments on Earth. The anthropologist James Sussman lived among the Juahonsi for years and documented this carefully. He found that even during the toughest times of year, the absolute maximum time spent on the food quest was 4 to 5 hours in a day. And during the easier seasons, it was much, much less. This was not laziness. This was efficiency built over hundreds of thousands of years of intimate knowledge. They were not working less because they did not care about survival. They were working less because they were extraordinarily good at it. Think about what that means for a moment. The standard modern workday is 8 hours. Many people work 10, 12, sometimes more. We call this normal. We call this necessary. We organise our entire lives around it. We sacrifice sleep and family, time and quiet and health to sustain it. And yet, for the vast majority of human history, the food quest, the central task of biological survival, took about 2.5 hours a day. 2.5 hours. The Hadza people of northern Tanzania, another group that researchers have studied extensively, have been living a hunter-gatherer lifestyle for an estimated 300,000 years, which is literally the entire span of modern human existence, and researchers who spent time with them found the same thing. About 2.5 hours of actual work. The rest of the day was open. Now, before we go further, I want to be honest about something. And this channel, Deep Earth Stories, is always going to be honest with you, even when the truth is more complicated than a clean headline. Life was not always easy. There were hard seasons, droughts that dried up food sources, winds that dried up food sources that made everything scarce, illnesses that swept through a group without warning, injuries that could become life-threatening without modern medicine. But these were not the constant state of things. They were disruptions to an otherwise sustainable rhythm. And that rhythm on ordinary days in ordinary seasons was remarkably gentle. So, the gathering begins. It is mid-morning. The air is warming but still comfortable. A small group, usually women and older children, moves out from the camp into the familiar landscape. Not randomly, with direction and memory. They are walking toward places they know. A stand of trees that should have fruit ready by now. A patch of ground near the stream where certain roots grow. A rocky slope where there are often edible plants between the stones. This landscape is not just geography to them, it is a library. Every part of it has a name, a story, a memory attached to it. That tree over there is where my grandmother used to bring me when I was small, because the berries come earlier there than anywhere else. This stream crossing is where my cousin fell and hurt her ankle 3 seasons ago. This hill is where we watched a thunderstorm come in from the west. All of us sitting together, not afraid, just watching. The landscape holds the history of the people who move through it, and the people carry the landscape inside them. Walking through familiar land to gather food was not a chore to be endured. It was, in a very real sense, going home. Again and again, every morning, going home. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. The path will carry you. The trees are familiar. You have been here before in some version, in some memory that is older than you can reach. For a moment, just breathe. Breathe in slowly, and let it out slowly. Feel the weight of your body in the bed. How still your legs are, how quiet your hands are. You are doing something our ancestors would recognize completely. You are resting, and that is enough. Chapter 3. The Hunters and the Long Patience. Not everyone went gathering. Some of the morning, some days belonged to the hunters, and hunting, in the world of early humans, looked almost nothing like the explosive, dramatic chase scenes we imagine. Real hunting, ancient hunting, was mostly about patience and reading. A hunter would rise early, often before the main group was awake, in that hour when the world is still dark blue and the animals are most active. Very quietly. They would move quietly, very quietly, not because they were trained to be quiet, but because quiet was their natural state. Because they had grown up in silence and learned its textures, they knew the difference between a silence that was empty and a silence that was full. A silence that is full means something is nearby. Hunters could read tracks in ways that seem almost like magic to modern eyes, but were simply the product of years of careful attention. The depth of a footprint in soil could tell you how heavy the animal was, how fast it was moving, how long ago it passed. The way grass bent told a story. A broken twig said something precise. Scattered droppings were a kind of map. This reading of the world, this ability to look at a surface and hear what it was saying, is a form of intelligence that we rarely exercise anymore, but it is still in us. The part of the human brain that evolved to track, to follow subtle patterns, to read invisible stories in the physical world, that part did not disappear. It just shifted. It became how we read faces, how we sense a mood in a room before anyone speaks, how we notice when something is not quite right, though we cannot say why. That ancient tracking intelligence is still working in you right now, in ways you do not even notice. The actual hunt, when it happened, was often not a sprint. Many early human hunting techniques involved something researchers call persistence hunting, not speed. Endurance. A human being cannot run faster than most large animals, but a human being can run at a moderate pace for an extraordinary amount of time without stopping. In the heat of the day, in open terrain, a human hunter could follow a large animal, keeping it moving, not letting it rest for hours, until the animal, which sprints and then needs to stop and cool down, became too exhausted to continue. Then the hunter would approach, quietly, carefully, and make it quick. This is humbling and beautiful in equal measure. Not a display of dominance, not a triumph. A slow, patient, exhausting act of necessity, followed in many cultures by a moment of acknowledgement, a word, a gesture, some small ritual of thanks to the animal that gave its life so that the group could eat. Researchers have documented these small rituals in many hunter-gatherer cultures around the world. The idea that the animal chose to give itself, that the relationship between hunter and hunted was not pure predation, but something more like an exchange. Something that required gratitude. That impulse to be grateful for what sustains you is one of the oldest human impulses. It did not come from religion or philosophy. It came from something quieter and older. It came from living close enough to death and to life that you could feel the weight of both, and the only honest response was thank you. Chapter 4. The fire comes home. The middle of the day was for rest. We have talked about this already, but let it settle a little more. In warm climates especially, the midday hours were not for work. They were for shade and stillness. People came back together from their various morning activities, and the camp became quiet. Children fell asleep in the sun. Adults leaned against trees or each other. Someone worked with their hands on something simple, shaping a piece of stone or fibre, not urgently, just for the movement of it. Someone told a half-remembered story. Someone laughed at something small. Then the long afternoon moved toward evening, and the fire was built. This is where I want to pause and really let you feel something. The use of fire by early humans goes back at least 1 million years, and possibly much longer. There are sites in South Africa and Kenya and China where ancient hearths have been found. Layers of ash, burned bones, charred seeds, the quiet evidence of flames that are long extinct, but somehow still warm in what they tell us. Fire did the practical things we know it did. Warmth, cooked food, light after dark. But fire did something more important than all of those things combined. Fire made a circle. Think about what happens when you sit around a fire with people. Your faces are lit. Your eyes can find each other. The darkness is pushed back to a soft edge, not eliminated, just held at a respectful distance. You are enclosed. You are together. The fire is in the center, like a heartbeat, like a shared thing that belongs to everyone and no one. In a 2014 study by the anthropologist Polly Wiesner, who recorded and analysed conversations among the Juhuansi people, she found something striking. During the day, conversation was mostly practical. Food, tasks, information, logistics. But at night, around the fire, everything changed. 80% of nighttime conversation was stories, not instructions, not plans. Stories about people, about distant events, about things that happened long ago, about imagined possibilities, about what it might mean to be alive, here in this particular body, at this particular moment in time. Storytelling, Wiesner argued, was not a luxury or an entertainment. It was a technology, as important in its own way as the spear or the fire itself. Because a story does something that no other form of communication can do. It lets you inhabit another mind. It lets you feel a situation you have not been in, make decisions you have not had to make, understand a person you have never met, and in a group of 50 people who need to trust each other, who need to cooperate and share and resolve conflicts without violence, that ability to imagine your way inside another person's experience is not just beautiful, it is survival. Every story you have ever loved, every book that changed something in you, every film that left you quiet and full afterward, every late-night conversation that you have never quite forgotten. All of it is continuous with those voices around that ancient fire. All of it comes from the same deep need to reach across the space between one mind and another and say, here is what it is like to be alive. That is what your ancestors did. Every night for 300,000 years, they told each other what it was like to be alive. Before we go any further, I want to take a moment, because you have been listening for a while now, and wherever you are, whatever the room looks like, I want to remind you of something. You do not need to remember all of this. You do not need to take notes. You do not need to stay awake to get the most out of this. If your eyes are closing, good. Let them. If your thoughts have drifted away from the words and into somewhere softer, that is exactly right. That is what this is for. For a moment, just breathe. In slowly, out slowly. Notice how your body feels right now. The weight of it. The stillness of your hands, your feet, your shoulders. You are being held by whatever is beneath you, and it is doing its job quietly and well. You are safe. The fire has been burning for 1,000,000 years, and it is still burning. It will be burning long after tonight. There is no urgency. There is nowhere to be. If this video is helping you rest, I want you to do one small thing before you drift off. Leave a comment down below. It can be anything. A single word if you want. Just let us know you were here. Let us know this reached you. The Deep Earth Stories community is built on exactly this kind of quiet connection. People finding each other in the dark and saying, I was here too now. Let's drift a little further. Chapter 5. What the evening held the fire. Burned low and then was fed again. The light shifted orange to gold, to deep red. The group settled into the slow rhythms of the evening. This is when the making happened. Stone tools, bone needles, cord twisted from plant fibre, baskets. The careful, unhurried work of making things by hand. And I want to stay here for a moment, because this kind of making, the patient shaping of a material with your hands until it becomes something useful or beautiful, or both, is one of the most fundamentally human things there is. The evidence for stone tool making goes back 3.3 million years. Before modern humans, before Neanderthals even, back to our older relatives, who looked at a stone and saw inside it the sharp edge it could become. This is not simple. Making a good stone tool requires deep knowledge. You need to know which stones work and which do not. You need to know how to prepare the core, removing outer material to reveal the right structure beneath. You need to know the angle of the strike, the amount of force, the exact spot. This knowledge was taught, hand to hand, older to younger, sitting together in the evening light, someone showing someone else, patiently, how to do something that could not be written down, because writing did not exist yet. It only existed in the showing. There is something deeply moving about that. A skill passing from one person to another in complete silence, or in the gentle murmur of a voice saying, "No, like this. Try again." That is teaching. That is the oldest form of education that exists. And it happened every evening, in every camp, in every band of humans on the face of the earth, for millions of years before anyone built a classroom. Every person who ever showed you how to do something with your hands. Every patient voice that said, "Try again." That is a continuation of something unimaginably old. Neanderthals, our close evolutionary cousins, were also makers. Their tools, a style called Mousterian, were carefully and skillfully produced. At some archaeological sites, researchers have found evidence of the same technique being used in the same place for thousands of years, generation after generation, maintaining the exact same tradition of making. That is a kind of cultural continuity that is hard to fully take in. Not 3 generations, not 30, thousands of generations, all doing the same thing the same way, because someone showed them how, and they showed someone else, and on across a span of time that makes all of recorded history look like a single afternoon. We are the inheritors of all of that patience. Everything you know how to do that involves your hands, reading, writing, cooking, driving, making anything at all, every one of those skills sits at the end of a chain that goes back further than you can imagine. That chain has never broken. You carry it forward tonight, simply by existing, simply by being a person who is still here, still curious, still reaching towards stories and knowledge and connection in the dark. That is enough. That is more than enough. Let your body be heavy now. Let the thoughts slow. The evening is long, and there is no reason to hurry through it. The fire crackles softly. Someone is telling a story in the background. You do not need to follow every word. You can let it wash over you. The voice, the warmth, the sense of being surrounded by people who are doing the same thing you are doing, resting, listening, being alive together in the quiet. The stars are coming out above the camp. They are always surprising, the stars, even after a lifetime of seeing them. Always more than you expect, always further away than seems possible, but also somehow close, as if they are watching, not with judgment, just with the patient, ancient attention of something that has been in the same place for a very long time and has learned in all that time that most things work out eventually. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Imagine this. You open your eyes in the dark. You are not in a room. There are no walls. Above you, the sky is huge and cold and full of stars. You feel the coolness of the ground underneath you, through the layers of grass and animal skin. You hear the soft breathing of people sleeping on both sides of you. And there, a little distance away, like a small red sun on the earth, is the fire. You did not make this fire. Your parents did. Their parents did. Their parents did. For 1,000,000 years, someone in your long family line has been keeping a flame alive. Tonight, it is your turn to watch it. You push yourself up slowly, careful not to wake the person beside you. The air on your face is cold. Your breath makes a faint white cloud. You pull your skin wrap closer, stand and walk quietly toward the glow. The world is asleep, but your day is about to begin. Tonight, in Party 2, we are going to step inside a single day. Not from above, not from a distance, from the inside. We will follow one early human, a person very much like you, and see what they actually do from the first light to the last ember. No sharp breaks, no grand scenes, just the quiet rhythm of a life. You do not need to stay fully awake for all of it. If your mind drifts, that is fine. If you miss a part, that is fine. The day will keep moving, slow and steady, like the turning of the earth itself. For now, just listen. Chapter 7. Before sunrise, you walk on bare feet. The ground is cold but familiar. You know every small dip and stone around this camp's because you have been here for many nights. You could walk this path with your eyes closed. At the edge of the sleeping circle, a few embers glow in a shallow pit. You pick up a long stick and nudge them gently. Under a skin cover, there is a small pile of dry twigs and grass prepared the night before. You move them over the coals, cup your hands and breathe. Slow, warm breath, again and again, until the dull orange turns bright and the first small flame appears. It catches the grass, it catches the twigs. Soon there is a thin, steady tongue of fire, then more, until a small living flame is moving in front of you, feeding on the wood you give it. No one taught you this with words. You watched it as a child, again and again. You felt it in your hands. You learned by doing, by trying, by feeling that moment when the fire almost dies, and then suddenly comes back stronger. You sit beside it now, pulling your fur closer, stretching your hands to the warmth. The camp behind you is still mostly asleep. One older woman stirs, opens her eyes, sees you there, and then closes them again, trusting that someone is watching, that all is well. The stars above you are beginning to fade at the edges. A pale line is forming on the horizon. Soon the birds will start to call. Soon the others will wake. But for a little while it is just you and the fire. You poke at a log, watch the sparks swirl up into the air and disappear. You do not know about galaxies or gas or physics. You know only that there is an order to these things. Heat rises, sparks fly, the sun will come again. This quiet time, this private dawn, is part of many hunter-gatherer days. The one who wakes a little earlier than the others, the one who stirs the coals, the one who listens to the last sounds of the night as they slowly become the first sounds of morning. Researchers who have lived with groups like the Hadza and the Yuhuansi tell us that the camp is rarely fully asleep. There is always someone drifting in and out of wakefulness, someone stretching, someone checking the fire, someone listening. This light, floating sleep is one reason small bands could stay safe without walls and locks. There was a kind of natural watchfulness, shared by everyone. You might know this feeling from your own life, waking up in the night, not fully, just enough to check the window, to listen to the house, to roll over and feel that everything is okay, and then drifting back down. You have been doing that for a very long time. Your ancestors did it under open skies. You watch the horizon slowly brighten. The day is coming. Chapter 8. The slow start. By the time the sun touches the tops of the trees, more people are awake. There is no single moment when everyone rises at once. It is a slow wave of waking. A child yawns and sits up, hair tangled, eyes half closed. An older man pushes himself up from his sleeping mat, with a small sound in his throat, joints stiff from the night. Two teenagers laugh at something only they heard. There are no beds to make, no alarms to silence, no doors to lock behind you. The camp is already open to the day. Someone adds more wood to the fire. Someone brings water from a nearby stream in a skin bag or a hollowed-out gourd. Someone begins to stir yesterday's roasted tubers from the ashes, checking which ones can be eaten cold for breakfast. You talk in that low, easy first-thing voice, not about plans or tasks yet, about dreams, about a strange sound in the night. about a memory that the smell of the morning brought up without warning. Anthropologists who sat with the Juhonsi people in the Kalahari have written that early morning conversation is often light, playful, even silly. Not heavy, not rushed. The day has not yet put its weight on anyone, and the words move like smoke, curling, rising, disappearing. One woman teases a man about how loudly he snores. Someone imitates him, badly, making the children laugh. An older person, who has seen many, many seasons, mutters that people used to snore less when everyone ate better. No one knows if that is true, but it feels true enough to become part of the morning story. You chew something simple and filling, maybe roasted root, maybe dried meat left from the night before, maybe some fruit that keeps well. The food is plain, but your body knows it. There is no ingredient list, no preservatives, no guesswork. When you are full enough, not stuffed, just steady, you wipe your hands, stand, and look at the land. The group is beginning to divide, gatherers here, hunters there. Children scattered between, attaching themselves to whichever group suits their age and energy. There is no boss giving orders, no supervisor assigning roles. People choose based on skill, need, and habit. Those who are strong and fast and have good aim might go with the hunters. Those who are skilled at plant knowledge, who know dozens of roots and berries by sight and by season, move with the gatherers. You choose, and the day begins to open in front of you like a path you know very well and still find beautiful every time. Chapter 9. Walking the land. Imagine you are walking. You are moving through a landscape that your people have known for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. There are no signs, no fences, no property lines, but you know where you are. Every rise and hollow, every line of trees, every bend in the river has a story. That hill over there is where lightning struck a tree and split it in half 2 summers ago. That cluster of rocks is where your uncle trapped a small antelope. That patch of tall grass is where you once hid from a sudden storm, laughing with your cousin, as the rain hammered the ground around you. This knowledge lives in you like a second body. You are not out in nature in the way modern people sometimes are, stepping into something separate and unfamiliar. You are at home. Researchers who study hunter-gatherer groups describe their environmental knowledge as vast and precise. Names for hundreds of plant species, detailed awareness of animal behavior, understanding of when certain fruits ripen, when certain insects appear, when certain winds mean a shift in weather. This is not specialized knowledge held by only a few. It is common knowledge. Everybody knows enough to survive. You and the others move in a loose line, not marching, not wandering. There is a direction in mind, but no strict route. You adjust as you go. A plant here you recognize. A cluster of tracks there to examine. Someone calls quietly and points to something you did not see yet. There is talk. There is always talk. You tell a short story about the last time you were in this part of the land. Someone remembers a relative who once fell into the stream here. Laughter again. The walking is not silent, not solemn. It is just life in motion. Modern people sometimes romanticize this. Imagine it as a perfect harmony with the world. It was not perfect. There were arguments. There were days when ankles hurt, when someone was in a bad mood, when nothing seemed to go right. But there was a deep familiarity, a kind of long conversation with the land that went on every single day. Your body is working, but not in bursts, not in sudden, intense effort, in steady, moderate motion. A level of movement that, today, modern doctors and health organizations tell us is exactly what keeps bodies healthy in the long term. Strong hearts, strong bones, low rates of heart disease and diabetes. Hunter-gatherers, researchers have found, have stronger bones, lower blood pressure, and far less cardiovascular disease than neighbouring farmers and city dwellers. Not because they exercise in the modern sense, but because their daily life simply asks their bodies to do what bodies were built to do. Walk, carry, reach, move. You are doing all of this without thinking about it. Your heart beats in a calm rhythm. Your feet know where to step. Your mind is free to drift, to listen, to notice the shape of a cloud or the particular shade of green on a leaf. If your own body is still right now, lying in bed, that is okay. It remembers this movement. The quiet rhythm of walking sits somewhere deep in your nerves. You do not have to act it out. Just let the image move slowly through your mind. You walk until the sun is above the trees. Then the real work begins. Chapter 10. Gathering the invisible wealth, you kneel down. The soil here is soft, darker than the ground around it. You push your fingers into it and feel for the texture you know. You find it. A root, long and firm, just beneath the surface. You dig with your hands, not fast, not rough. You do not want to damage it. The earth gives way easily, and soon you pull out a tuber the length of your forearm, covered in dirt, heavy in your hands. You hold up your prize and someone makes a small sound of approval. You smile without thinking. This is good food. This is dense, rich, important food. All around you others are doing the same. Some are picking berries from a bush, staining fingers dark purple. Some are knocking down nuts with long sticks. Some are using simple digging sticks to reach deeper roots. Children help, copying the motions they have seen since they started walking. They are not very fast yet. But every small success matters. This is gathering. Not a desperate scramble for rare food. A steady, skilled harvesting of what the land provides when you know how to ask. Studies of groups like the Hadza show that women's gathering typically supplies the majority of daily calories. Meat from hunting is important, sometimes crucial, especially for protein and fat. But root and plant foods are the backbone of daily life. They can be relied on in a way that hunting cannot. The work takes a few hours, not 12, not 10, not even 8. In many hunter-gatherer groups, total daily work time, including food gathering, tool maintenance, and basic camp tasks, averages around 4 to 6 hours. The rest of the day is open, not in the modern sense of free time, filled with entertainment, but truly open, unscheduled. As you pull another root from the soil, you talk to the person next to you about nothing in particular. The sun is moving higher. The air is warming. Sweat gathers lightly on your back, but you do not mind. There is shade nearby. There will be rest later. You fill a woven bag with food, the weight increasing slowly, pleasantly, a proof of your work. When the bag is heavy enough, someone says it is time. You begin the walk back. Chapter 11. Midday shade. The camp is a circle of small shelters, low and simple. Some made of bent branches covered in leaves, some of animal skins stretched over a frame. They are not permanent houses. They are light, temporary structures that can be taken down and moved when the group moves. Right now, they stand in a loose ring around the central fire. You drop your bag of roots near the cooking area. Others do the same. There is no mine and yours here, not with food. In most hunter-gatherer cultures, food is shared, not as charity, not as a favour, but as a basic rule. Resources are expected to circulate through the group. Today your bag may be heavy and someone else's light. Tomorrow the roles may be reversed. There is no scorekeeping, no accounting ledger. There is trust that in the long run, things balance. Anthropologists call this demand sharing. Anyone in the group has the right to ask anyone else for food, and refusing is rare. This system makes it very hard for hierarchy to grow. If you cannot hoard resources, you cannot build power on top of them. You sit down in the shade. It is midday. The sun is directly overhead, pouring heat onto the open ground. You do not go out in it unless you must. The animals are hiding too, resting in shade, waiting for the cooler hours. Someone begins to peel and roast the roots. Someone else cuts meat from last night's hunt, turning it on a stick over the fire. The smell is rich and familiar. You eat. You eat until you are comfortably full, not bloated. You know, from long experience, how much your body needs to get through the rest of the day. There are no measured portions, no calorie counts. There is just appetite and the memory of many other meals. Afterward, the camp grows quiet. Some people lie down and sleep. Some sit and talk softly, voices low and slow. Some work with their hands on tasks that do not require much energy. Mending, weaving, tool sharpening. Researchers who have tracked daily activity patterns in hunter-gatherer groups routinely find this midday rest. The day is not a continuous line of effort. It is a wave, with peaks and valleys. Work happens in the morning and late afternoon. The middle is for shade and stillness. You feel your own eyes close now, in bed, listening. You may not be a hunter-gatherer, but your body still has a midday rhythm. That dip in energy you feel after lunch, the heaviness behind your eyes. That is not laziness. That is an ancient pattern repeating itself. You rest. Your head leans against a rolled skin or a smooth rock. The sounds of the camp fade around you into a comfortable blur. A child's laughter, the low murmur of adults talking, the crackle of the fire as someone adds a log. Sleep comes quickly. It is not deep, not yet. It is more like floating, like being half in the world and half outside it. Time passes. When you open your eyes again, the light has changed. Chapter 12. The long afternoon. The shadows are longer now. The heat has pulled back a little. The air is still warm, but in a gentler way. The sharpness of midday is gone. This is the time for the second work of the day. For some, it is another round of gathering, in a different direction, toward a different set of plants or a water source that needs checking. For others, it is repair work, fixing shelters, improving the windbreak, trimming branches, arranging stones around the fire to reflect heat better when night comes. For the hunters, it is a good time to leave. We spoke earlier about persistence hunting, the slow pursuit of an animal until it collapses from exhaustion. That technique works best in open, dry environments and hot daylight, but not all hunts are like that. Many involve waiting, ambush, quiet tracking. You may or may not go with the hunters today. If you are older, maybe your days of running are behind you. If you are young, maybe you are not skilled enough yet for the serious hunts, but almost everyone in the group has some experience with taking small animals, setting traps, catching birds, fishing in streams. The important thing is this: no one is idle forever. Even in groups with very low work hours, there is a sense that everyone contributes something. Not in a strict punishing way, in a natural way. People want to be useful. They want to have a role. You might spend this afternoon teaching a child how to use a small bow, not for serious hunting yet, just for practice. You show them how to hold it, how to pull, how to aim. They miss, again and again, and you laugh with them, not at them. Eventually, they hit a small target, a log, a bundle of dry grass. There is a rush of joy. You remember your first hit. This is how knowledge moves forward. Not with tests, not with grades, but with moments like this. A skill passes from one pair of hands to another. In another part of the camp, two people are scraping a hide. The animal was killed days ago. the flesh has been eaten. Now the skin is being cleaned and stretched, so it can become clothing, or a sleeping mat, or a wrap. The work is repetitive but satisfying. The hide changes under their hands, becoming softer, more flexible. Sick sound. The sound of scraping is a steady rhythm in the afternoon air. Elsewhere, someone sits with a piece of stone in their lap, another stone in their hand. They strike, turn, strike again. Flakes fall away. Slowly a sharp edge appears. They pause often, feeling the shape with their fingers, adjusting their angle, deciding where the next break should be. This is not mindless. This is not unskilled labour. This is a fine craft. Archaeologists who have tried to reproduce ancient stone tools say it can take months or years to become truly competent, and that some techniques are so subtle they are almost impossible to rediscover without direct teaching. Now imagine doing that work while also holding a conversation, telling a story, singing softly to yourself. That is what your ancestor is doing. The sun moves slowly down, shadows grow longer, the air cools further. You feel, in your own body, something like this slow shift. The day where you are has moved on a little while you listened. The light outside your own window may have changed, or if you are already in the dark, the night has deepened. Time flows whether we notice it or not. In the camp, someone calls out, "The hunters are returning." Chapter 13. When the hunters come back, you hear them before you see them. Voices, low but excited. Footsteps, the faint metallic sound of stone against bone. They come into view between the trees, carrying meat over their shoulders. Maybe a small antelope, maybe a warthog, maybe something even larger. Their faces are tired but bright. There is a specific kind of tired joy that comes from a successful hunt, and people have been seeing that expression on each other's faces for hundreds of thousands of years. Everyone moves toward them, but not in a rush. There is an order to this, a way of doing things that recognize both effort and fairness. One of the hunters might tell the story of how it happened, where they first saw the animal, how the wind shifted, how one person almost skidded off with a wrong step, and how they recovered, shots taken and missed. The final moment, this is not bragging, not exactly. It is a performance, but it is also information. There are lessons in the telling about reading the land, the animal's behaviour, the weather. The young ones listen with sharp attention, storing details they will use years from now without realising where they learned them. Then the work of butchering begins. The animal is laid out on the ground. Sharp stone tools flash in the late light, quick and careful. Skin is separated from flesh. Organs are removed and set aside. Each part has a place, a use, a meaning. Different cultures have different rules for how meat is divided. Sometimes that fails. Sometimes the hunters get the best cuts. Sometimes the distribution is more equal. Sometimes there are specific pieces reserved for elders or for those who stayed behind. But in almost every case, the final result is the same. Everyone eats. The smell of fresh meat, of fire, of fat dripping onto coals, fills the air. You have been gathering roots and fruits all day. This rich protein and fat is a welcome change. Your body knows what to do with it. As the meat cooks, the sky slowly shifts from blue to gold to pink to deepening indigo. The day's work is almost done. Not completely, but almost. Soon, the fire will be the main light, and once again, as it has for 1,000,000 years, the circle will form around it. Chapter 14. Evening Circles. The meal is simple. Pieces of roasted meat passed from hand to hand, chunks of cooked root, soft and sweet. Maybe some berries if they survived the walk back. Maybe a little honey, if someone found a hive earlier and was brave enough to reach for it. You sit close, to people you know well. Family, friends, those you trust with the soft parts of yourself. You eat with your hands. You talk between bites. There is laughter. There is always laughter. Anthropologists who expected early human life to be grim and joyless were often surprised when they actually lived with hunter-gatherers. They found immense humour. Jokes, teasing, playful insults. Not cruel, not cutting, but sharp enough to keep anyone from becoming too proud. This is how equality is maintained. Not with laws, with laughter. If someone starts to act as if they are more important than the rest, perhaps a skilled hunter, perhaps someone who brought back an especially large haul, the group gently brings them back down with teasing, stories about their past mistakes, exaggerated impressions. Everyone laughs, including, eventually, the target. This is not bullying. It is balance. It keeps anyone from towering over the rest in their own mind. The light fades. The fire becomes the centre of the world again. People shift closer, drawn by the warmth and the light. Children cluster near the front, eyes bright, already guessing what is coming. Adults settle in behind them, food finished, bodies done with the day's demands. The conversations change. Daytime talk is for practical things. Food, tasks, arrangements. Nighttime talk is different. Polly Wiesner's study of Kalahari Bushman conversations found that around the fire, people spend most of their time on stories. Not instructions, not plans. Stories about others in their group, about distant relatives, about mythical figures, about spirits, about the origin of things. Same here. Someone begins. Not loudly, not with a dramatic announcement. Just with a line, slipped into the flow of conversation in a way that makes you quiet, without even deciding to be. Do you remember the time? Or there was once a man who... Or long ago, when the animals could still speak. The story builds. Voices rise and fall. Faces flicker in the firelight. Your eyes follow the speaker's hands as they gesture, tracing shapes in the air. You are not learning facts in the way we mean that word now. You are learning how people behave, how they feel, how they hurt each other and heal each other. What the group values, what it fears, what it finds funny. Fun. Stories are how your mind is shaped. You are not just entertained. You are being woven into the fabric of the group. You sit there, full and warm and tired, in the pleasant way that comes from a day of movement, and you let the stories pass through you. You may not remember them all. That is fine. The important ones will be told again. They are told every few weeks, every season, every year, in slightly different forms, until they are no longer something that happened. Then, they become something that is always happening, a part of how you understand the world. The fire crackles. Someone adds a log. Sparks fly upward, vanish into the dark. The sky above is completely black now, speckled with stars. You look up, and for a moment forget the story. You are just looking. Chapter 15. Under the stars are intense. You have never seen them dimmed by city lights. You have never seen them hidden behind pollution. When you look up, you see the sky the way almost all humans saw it, for almost all of our history. Dense with points of light, some fixed, some wandering, moving slowly over days and weeks. The Milky Way is a bright river across the sky, not a faint smudge. It draws your eye without effort. You do not know what stars are in a scientific sense. You do not know about nuclear fusion or galaxies or light years. You know them as patterns, as markers. When that bright one rises over that hill, the cold season will come, things like that. And you know them as stories. Every group has its own sky stories. Animals running across the dark, people placed in the heavens for something great or terrible they did. Anyone who has spent time with indigenous groups today, listening to their star lore, will tell you that the night sky is full of narrative. Tonight, someone starts one, a story about a time when the sky was closer to the earth and people could climb to it. Or a story about two lovers turned into stars so they could be together forever. Or a story about a trickster who hid a piece of the sun in the night sky to light his way. You listen, the fire's heat on your face, the cool air on the back of your neck, the hard earth under your legs, the sound of a night insect nearby, the breathing of others. Your day is almost over. If you were to measure your work today in modern terms, it might add up to 4 or 5 hours. Walking, gathering, carrying, small tasks. The rest has been talking, listening, resting, being with others. This was a common pattern, not an exception. It is very different from what we call normal now. That difference can feel painful if you look at it one way. You might feel cheated, realizing how much of your short time on Earth is claimed by schedules and obligations that do not nourish you. But if you look at it another way, it can feel like permission. Permission to recognize that your desire for more unstructured time is not laziness. It is something very old in you, remembering how things used to be. You cannot go back, not completely. The world is different now, but you can, maybe, steal small pieces of that rhythm back for yourself. A quiet morning, a slow walk with no destination, a long, unhurried conversation with someone you trust. You can remember when you feel tired, that humans were not built to grind through 10-hour works under artificial light. We were built for a mix of movement and rest, of effort and ease. The fire burns lower, the stories fade. People begin to drift away toward their sleeping places one by one in no particular order. You feel your own body pulling toward rest. You lie down again on your mat of skins and grass. The ground is the same as it was this morning. The sky has turned, the day is done. Somewhere nearby you still hear the low murmur of a few voices, the occasional crackle from the fire, the soft shuffle of someone turning in their sleep. Your eyes close. You are still. Above you, the stars continue their patient burning. Another human day has passed, and tomorrow will be much the same. Different details, different stories. Same slow rhythm. The world turns slowly. And so do we. Imagine that instead of being an adult in this camp, you are small. You are 3 years old. Maybe 4. The world is huge. You wake up to motion and sound. Not an alarm, but the soft rustle of people getting up around you. You are lying between 2 warm bodies. Your mother on one side, someone else on the other. An aunt, maybe. Or an older sibling. Or a friend of the family. In many hunter-gatherer bands, an infant is rarely in just one pair of arms. Care is shared. Researchers call this alloparenting, other parents. In some groups, these other parents provide almost half of all childcare. Babies are passed gently from hand to hand, held, fed, soothed, not by one person alone, but by many. You grew up like that. From your stowers, you have felt the skin and breath and heartbeat of more than one caregiver. You have learned that comfort can come from many directions. This morning, you sit up and rub your eyes. No one orders you to get dressed. There are no stiff clothes waiting. You pull your small wrap around your shoulders and stand when you feel like standing. If you want to stay lying down a little longer, that is fine too. In many hunter-gatherer societies, adults do not give direct orders to children. They do not call bedtime or get up now very often. Instead, children are allowed to follow their own rhythms within the soft boundaries of the group. You toddle toward the fire, drawn by warmth and by the murmur of voices. Someone sees you and smiles. You are handed a small piece of roasted root, already cooled off. You chew slowly, gaze drifting around the camp. There is no rush, no schedule. Children your age are not sitting in rows somewhere, being told to memorize symbols on a board. You are learning by being here, by watching. Two older kids, maybe 8 and 11, start some kind of game with sticks and stones. They do not invite you with words, but they do not push you away either. You move closer on your own. Pick up a small stone, copy what they are doing. This is how learning works here. Researchers who study hunter-gatherer childhoods describe days filled with mixed-age playgroups, often with very little direct adult supervision. From around age 2, children spend hours playing in groups of other children, learning skills, language and social rules through play and observation instead of formal teaching. There is joy in it, and noise, and some conflict, and a lot of figuring things out by trial and error. No one tells you, now it's time to learn. Your entire day is learning. The adults glance over from time to time, make sure no one is hurt. But they do not step in to control the game unless something truly dangerous happens. You are free within a safe circle. Your world at 3 years old is mostly made of play, warmth, familiar voices, and a landscape that you are beginning to know by smell and texture. You do not know it, but you are one of the most cared-for creatures on Earth. Chapter 17. The group that breathes. We have been talking about the group as if it is always the same people, always together. But that is not quite how it works. Hunter-gatherer bands have a special way of existing that scientists call a fission-fusion society. That means the group can come together and split apart, changing shape without breaking. Imagine this. For a while, many families move and camp together. The group might swell to 70, 80, even 100 people when resources are rich and there is plenty to share. This is fusion, a joining. There is more laughter, more stories, more potential partners for young people, more playmates for children. Information spreads quickly. News from distant places comes in on the voices of visitors. Then, when the land begins to thin, when too many footsteps in one place scare the animals away and strip the plants, the group begins to loosen again. Families drift apart, not in anger, but in a kind of mutual understanding. Some go north, some go south. Small bands of 20 or 30 form again. This is fission, a splitting. It is not a clean, once and for all division. People can and do move between bands. A person who does not get along with someone in their current group may leave and join another. A young adult might go to live with their partner's family. Others might visit and then return. There are no permanent borders, no passports, no property lines. The human social world here is more like a breathing thing, expanding and contracting, with seasons and with needs. One of the quiet advantages of this flexible structure is that it lets people cool off conflicts without violence. If you and someone else in the band really cannot get along, you do not have to live side by side forever. When the bands shift, you can drift apart. The story of that conflict will still be told in soft jokes and warnings, but you will have space. The pressure will ease. Compare that to living in a fixed small town or in an apartment building where you may have to see the same person every day no matter what. The fission-fusion pattern is a pressure valve built into the social structure. In your day, you might not notice it as a child. You simply see that sometimes there are more people, sometimes fewer, that sometimes new faces appear, bringing new stories, new songs, that sometimes familiar faces wander away, and months or years may pass before you see them again. But your body, your deep animal self, feels something important. You are never completely trapped. Your social world can change shape. It can breathe. Chapter 18. The weight of a hand. Now, come back to the circle by the fire for a moment. Imagine a grandmother's hand resting lightly on your head. She is not your mother, but she has held you since you were tiny. She has fed you, carried you on her hip, taught you songs. She has no job description, no fixed title, but in many ways, she is one of your most important protectors. Researchers have found that in many hunter-gatherer societies, grandmothers and other older women play a huge role in child survival. They gather food, especially roots and tubers, that feed the whole group, freeing mothers to have children closer together in age. This grandmother effect may be one reason humans live longer than many other mammals. Once our bodies stop having babies, we do not become useless. We become the backbone of the group. Your grandmother's skin is lined, her hands are strong. She moves more slowly than she used to, but her eyes still see every small detail. She notices when a child is unusually quiet. She notices when someone is withdrawing from the group. She notices which plants are doing well this season and which are not. In the evening, she often tells stories, not the big myth stories that everyone knows. Smaller, everyday ones, little histories. A thing your mother did when she was your age. A dry season that came long before you were born. The face of a brother who died in another place, under a different sky. Her hand on your head is not heavy. You can ignore it, if you want to. But you probably don't. That hand carries memories. It carries the weight of having lived through things you have not yet faced and surviving them. It is a quiet promise. I got through it. You can too. If you have, in your own life, ever felt an older hand on your shoulder in a hard moment, a grandparent, a teacher, a kind stranger, then you have felt something like this. For a moment, if you want, you can imagine that hand on you now. Not to hold you down, just to say, you are not alone. The line behind you is long. You do not have to carry everything by yourself. Chapter 19. The only reset. You have been listening for a while. Your own day has been moving along quietly in the background of this story. Maybe you are lying in bed. Maybe you are on a couch. Maybe the room is dark. Maybe there is a faint hum of something in the distance. A fan, a refrigerator, a faraway car. Wherever you are, try something with me now. Just this once. Let your eyes, if they are open, close. If they are already closed, let them soften even more. Notice the air on your skin. Cool or warm, still or moving. Notice the shape of your body. The points where you touch what you are lying on. Notice your jaw. Let it drop a little, so your teeth are not pressed together. Now take a slow breath in, through your nose if you can. Not huge, just a little deeper than usual. Hold it for the space of one quiet heartbeat, then let it out. Slowly do it again. In, hold, out. And one more. In, hold, out. For a moment, everything else can wait. Messages, plans, worries about tomorrow. Old memories that rise up when you do not want them to. All of it can drift to the edge of your mind. You do not have to chase them. You do not have to fix anything right now. You are doing something very old, very simple, and very important. You are resting in the middle of being alive. Early humans did not have guided breathing exercises. They did not have words like mindfulness or relaxation response. But their days held many moments like this, naturally, without anyone naming them. Sitting quietly by a fire after a long walk, floating in shallow water, watching light on the surface, leaning against a tree trunk, feeling its rough bark against their back. Those moments reset the nervous system in the same way your 3 slow breaths just did. You can come back to this little pattern anytime. In this story, after this story, whenever you need it. You do not need my voice to guide you. 3 breaths. That is enough. Now, gently, let your breath go back to whatever feels natural. If you feel heavier, sink into that weight. If your mind feels a little softer at the edges, that is good. We will keep going. You do not have to. You can drift if you want. The story will still be here, flowing quietly around you. Chapter 20. Night Watch. The fire is burning low. Most of the group is asleep now, lying in a rough circle around the glowing embers. Some are wrapped in skins, some lie under simple shelters. A few are turned toward each other, whispering still. But not everyone is sleeping at the same time. Researchers who recorded sleep patterns in small, traditional groups found something interesting. Across the whole night, there were almost always a few people awake. As one person drifted off, another stirred. Over the course of 8 hours, there might be only a short window, if any, when everyone was fully asleep at once. They call this the sentinel hypothesis. The idea that staggered sleep emerged as a natural protection. Without walls or locked doors, the safest thing is for the group as a whole to be lightly awake. All night, like one big organism that never completely shuts down. You might be one of those people tonight. You wake up in the darkest hour for no clear reason, your eyes open. The stars overhead are bright and sharp. The fire is a small red glow. You listen, you hear breathing, a rustle of leaves, a distant hoot of an owl, the slight movement of someone turning in their sleep. You do not panic. You do not reach for a clock to see what time it is. You simply lie there for a while, half in dreams, half awake. Maybe you add a small stick to the fire. Maybe you sit up and look at the horizon for signs of dawn. Maybe you watch the slow movements of someone else who is also awake. On the far side of the circle, their face just visible in the dim light. Then, when your body feels ready, you lie down again, and sleep comes. Segmented sleep like this, broken into 2 or more periods with a wakeful phase in between, was common not just in hunter-gatherer societies, but even in pre-industrial Europe. People would talk about their first sleep and second sleep as if it were the most ordinary thing. It is only recently, with artificial light and strict schedules, that we began to think uninterrupted 8-hour blocks are the only normal way to sleep. If you wake in the middle of the night sometimes and worry that something is wrong with you, remember this. For most of human history, that wakeful window was not a problem. It was part of the design. You are not broken. You are old. You are as old as the fire. Chapter 21. Quiet conflicts. Daytime is for work and for play. Nighttime, especially that early part after the meal when the fire is high and people are still alert, is often for stories. But there is another thing that sometimes happens in those hours. Conflicts are handled. Not always, not every night. But when something has been brewing, a jealousy, a hurt, a sense that someone is not sharing fairly. The night circle can be a place where it is gently brought into the open. Hunter-gatherer bands do not have courts. They do not have prisons. They cannot easily expel someone from the group, because each member is useful and the world outside the group is dangerous. So they have to find ways to resolve tensions without destroying the circle. Anthropologists describe long, slow conversations where a person's actions are discussed in front of everyone, not in a shouting way, in a narrative way. Do you remember when you did this? Do you see how that made her feel? Stories are told that place the conflict inside a larger pattern of behaviour. Sometimes there is laughter. Sometimes there are tears. Usually there is no clear winner. The goal is not to punish. The goal is to bring the hurting thing into the light until everyone can see it from all sides. Then, slowly, it shrinks. If the conflict cannot be resolved, the fission fusion structure helps. People drift apart over time. Groups reform in new combinations. Violence does happen, of course. Humans are humans. There are jealousies and sudden angers and old grudges. But the way you live, close, with little privacy, with shared food and shared space, makes it hard to maintain a Cold War. You cannot simply avoid someone for years. You see them at the fire tonight and tomorrow and the next day. You hear them laugh. You watch them comfort a child. You remember they are more than the one thing they did to hurt you. In your own life, you may not have a fire circle to bring your hurts to. You may carry them alone. You may have relationships that have frozen in a single shape, with no chance to thaw. But somewhere in you is a memory of another way. A way where problems are faced in community, where stories are used as tools, and where the goal is not to win, but to keep the group whole. Chapter 22. The Long Memory. Think about how much a person in this band remembers. There are no books, no phones, no photos, no cloud backups. Everything that matters is in human minds. The location of water sources and their seasonal changes. The times of year when different plants appear. The behaviours of animals. The stories of ancestors. The alliances and grudges between different bands. The rituals for birth, for death, for healing. The meanings of songs. The dangers of specific places. The cures for specific pains. You might think this would be overwhelming, but for a brain wired like yours, natural, we are pattern-storing, story-storing creatures. In modern life, we outsource much of this. We rely on devices, on written records, on search engines. That frees space, but it also makes us feel untethered sometimes, as if nothing really stays. In early human life, memory was a shared task. No one person had to remember everything. Different people held different pieces, and together they formed a living library. Elders held deep history. Hunters held knowledge of animals. Certain individuals might specialize in plants, others in songs and rituals. When someone died, knowledge was lost. That hurt was more than emotional. It could be practical. A specific healing plant known only to that person might disappear from the group's usable world. This gave weight to the lives of older people. They were not pushed aside. They were precious. With every story they told, they were passing on something the group might need later. You might remember the first time as a child you realized that an older person in your life carried an entire world inside them that you did not know. Maybe a grandparent quietly telling a story that suddenly made you see them as a person, not just a role. Multiply that feeling by hundreds of thousands of years. That is the human story. You are part of it, even if no one has told you this before. Chapter 23. The same sky. We are far into the past now. But look up for a moment. The sky above. The sky above this early camp is in many ways the same sky above you. The constellations have shifted a little over the ages, but not so much that you would not recognize them. The same bright points we now call Orion, Scorpio, the Pleiades, are there. The moon still waxes and wanes, the planets still wander. Our ancestors used this sky as a clock and as a calendar. They noticed when certain stars rose just before dawn, a signal that a seasonal change was coming. They watched the length of shadows grow and shrink, the way we might watch a clock hand, but they also used the sky as a mirror. Stories projected onto stars tell us more about the storytellers than about the stars. Animals of the local landscape, moral lessons from local events, echoes of joys and sorrows long past. We do the same thing now. We send machines into space and take pictures of distant galaxies, and then we tell stories about them. We watch meteor showers and make wishes. We mark time by sunrises and sunsets, and feel something in our chest when the light hits the edge of a building just right. The content of our stories has changed. The emotions underneath have not. When you feel small under a big sky, you are feeling what they felt. When you feel comforted by that smallness, relieved that the world is so large and your problems are so tiny in comparison, you are also feeling what they felt. Lying on your back, looking up, breathing, is one of the simplest ways to remember. You are part of something enormous. Tonight, you may be indoors. You may not see the stars at all, but you know they are there. Your ancestors did not know what stars were, but they knew that too, that they were always there, and that somehow was enough. Chapter 25. The thread between we have now walked through an entire human day, from before dawn to after midnight, from waking to sleep and back again. We have seen how much of that day is filled with things your own body still recognizes as right. Waking with light, moving in moderate, steady ways, sharing food freely, resting in the middle of the day, gathering around a fire, telling stories, sleeping in segments with small wakeful islands, holding children close, letting them play free, shaping the world with your hands, feeling small under the sky. The details shift across environments and cultures. The plants and animals are different in a forest than on a savanna, in a coastal landscape than in a desert. But the core rhythm is similar. Work, rest, talk, listen, make, share, sleep, repeat. Modern life bends that rhythm hard. It compresses work into tight blocks, pushes rest to the edges, replaces talk with text, stories with scrolling. It makes you feel that if you are not always producing something, you are failing. But under all of that, you are still built on the old pattern. That is why a slow walk can feel like medicine. Why sitting by a fire, even a fake fire video on a screen, can loosen something in your chest. Why being truly seen and heard by someone feels like water in a dry throat. You are not shaped creature in a right-shaped world. You are an old creature in a new-shaped world. Sometimes the fit is awkward, but the thread between you and that small band under the open sky has not snapped. It stretches, but it holds. Tonight, you have been following that thread backward, gently, seeing where it began. You do not have to reach the end. There may not even be an end. It is enough to know it is there. Somewhere behind your daily worries, behind your to-do lists and notifications and long nights, there is a long memory of a simpler day. A day where the main tasks were to find food, to stay warm, to be with others, to tell and hear stories. A day that always ended, eventually, with lying down, with closing your eyes, with trusting that someone else would keep the fire alive. You, right now, listening, are part of that same story, and whether you fall asleep in the next minute or in an hour, whether you hear the rest of this series or drift away before we finish, that story will keep unfolding in you. Quietly, patiently, like the turning of the earth. The world turns slowly, and so do we. The facts are real. Hunter-gatherers spent far less time working for survival than we do now, often around 20 hours a week for food, tools, clothing, and shelter. They moved with the land instead of forcing the land to stay still for them. Their societies were mostly equal, with shared resources and little fixed hierarchy. But more than facts, I want to give you a feeling. A sense of how it might have felt to be one small human in a long line of humans walking through deep time. You do not have to stay fully awake for this. You can just let the images drift through you, like dreams. Chapter 25. The year, not the day so far. We have followed a single day. Now imagine that we lift our eyes and watch a whole year. We see the small band moving across a wider map. There is a river, sometimes full, sometimes thin. There is a forest that changes colour if it's in a temperate place, or stays deep green if it's in a tropical one. There are open grasslands, rocky outcrops, hills, and valleys. In some regions, the groups has a loose circuit. They return to certain places, again and again, in different seasons, because each place offers something special at a specific time. A coastal bay rich in shellfish when the tides and temperatures are right. A grove of trees that fruits in the late warm season. A high ridge where certain animals pass through on their migrations. They do not mark these places on maps. They carry the map in their bodies. In your own life, you might have something like this on a much smaller scale. A park bench where the light is beautiful in the late afternoon. A corner of a rooftop where the wind always feels just right. A street that smells of blossoms in a certain month. Now expand that by 100, 1,000, 10,000 places. The band does not wander randomly. Their movement is a careful, practiced response to the slow breathing of the land. Its wet and dry seasons, its cold and warm cycles, its regular gifts and regular dangers. When the rains come, they may stay near rich plant growth and swollen rivers, careful of floods. When the dry season tightens, they may move closer to permanent water sources, more alert for conflict with other bands doing the same. Life is not static. Nothing is truly permanent, but the pattern is familiar, comforting. You know that when the air takes on a certain taste, when the insects sing in a certain way, it means the time is coming to leave this camp and go to another. Your calendar is the sky, the wind, the plants, and the animals. Not numbers on a page, not a phone notification. You live by the touch and taste of the world itself. Chapter 26. Work that feels like play. Our own word work is heavy. It often means what we do because we must, not because we want to. It can mean strain, pressure, something to recover from. But for hunter-gatherers, the line between work and play was different, softer, more blurred. Gathering food could be social, filled with conversation and exploration. Children often came along, watching, helping, playing. Small tasks like digging or picking could be turned into games easily. Who finds more berries? Who spots the first ripe fruit? Hunting demanded skill and patience, but it was also a source of deep focus and meaning, especially for those who were good at it. It was not 9 identical hours behind a desk. It was a series of different acts, tracking, reading, waiting, moving, each calling on different parts of the body and mind. Anthropologists who looked at time-use data among various forager groups have found that, even counting all subsistence activities, people spent far fewer hours working than farmers or modern industrial workers, often around 20 hours a week on food, plus some extra time on tools and shelter. They also had much more control over when and how that work was done. If a hunt took several days, there might be long rest afterward. If a big fruit tree was in season, a single day of collecting might feed a family for several days. There was no boss to demand steady output. Productivity followed the rhythms of weather, plants, and animals. This does not mean life was easy. A bad season could be deadly. Illness had no modern medicine to soften it. Injuries could become permanent quickly, but on ordinary days the basic tasks of living were woven with social pleasure and simple satisfaction. Working with others, working with your hands, working outside, stopping when the task was done, not when the clock said so. You might recognize small echoes of that satisfaction in your own life. Moments when a chore that should feel boring instead feels oddly right. hanging clothes in the sun, chopping vegetables with a comfortable knife, fixing something broken. These are tiny windows into older ways of working. Your restlessness in front of a screen for 8 unbroken hours is not a personal failure. It is a very old body protesting a very new pattern. Chapter 27. When we first stayed still. For almost all of human history, we moved, not in a frantic, constant way, but in a steady, seasonal pattern. The land changed, so we changed with it. Our homes were light and easy to take down. Our possessions were few. Then, slowly in some places, something different happened. Someone planted a seed. Agriculture emerged in several parts of the world between about 12 and 10,000 years ago. In the Fertile Crescent, in China, in parts of the Americas, in Africa. At first, it did not replace foraging completely. People planted a few things while still hunting and gathering. The line between the two ways of life was not sharp. But over time, in many places, farming took over. When you plant, you must stay. You cannot be 3 days, walk away when the grain ripens. You cannot follow the herds too far if you need to water your crops. Settlements appeared, then villages, then towns. Houses became heavier. Walls went up. Property began to matter in new ways. Researchers who compared foragers with neighbouring farmers today have found something surprising. Farmers often work more, much more. A study of the Agta people in the Philippines found that those who had adopted farming worked about 10 hours a week more than their forager neighbours, and that women in farming families lost about half of their leisure time. Other research suggests that even in ancient times, early farmers had higher workloads and worse health, more dental problems, more bone stress than foragers. Agriculture brought new things. More people could be supported in one area. Surplus food allowed some individuals to specialise in roles other than food production. Priests, rulers, soldiers. Eventually, this led to cities, writing, science, art, and the entire complex world we live in now. But it also brought constraints. The land had to be defended. Crops had to be protected. Hierarchy grew. The thread from forager bands to modern life is not broken. It bends through all of this, but when we compare the daily texture of the two ways of living, the contrast is sharp. Small, mobile groups with flexible work and lots of leisure. Large, settled populations with more rigid labour and less free time. We often talk about this as progress, and in some ways it is. You and I would not be here, speaking across this distance, without everything that came from settled life. But from the viewpoint of an individual nervous system, a single human body, there is a cost. A slowing of movement, a tightening of time, a narrowing of choice. No wonder something in you longs, sometimes for open space and unscheduled hours, even if you have never known such a thing in your own life. That longing is not nostalgia for a past you personally lived. It is a deep echo of a past your species lived. Chapter 28. Being small on purpose. Let's step back even further. Not from the year, but from the thousands of years. Imagine the timeline of humans. And not just modern humans, but all the hominins, all the beings that walked upright and used tools and made fire and told their first clumsy stories, laid out along a long, dark hallway. At one end, small ape-like ancestors in Africans' forests. At the other, you, lying somewhere in this century, listening to a voice from a glowing rectangle. Between those ends, millions of years. The time of hunting and gathering, of small bands, moving with the land, living by foraging and hunting, occupies almost the entire hallway. Agriculture arrives right at the very end, in a tiny slice. Cities, writing, industry, the internet. They are thin layers of paint on the last inch of the floor. We live in that inch. Our bodies were built in the long stretch before it. This is what people mean when they talk about deep time. Not just a long stretch of years, but a sense of how tiny our moment is compared to everything that came before. It could be a frightening thought, or it could be comforting. You are not carrying the whole story. You are one scene in one chapter in one volume of a library that began before you and will continue after you. The anxiety that says, I must do everything, fix everything, understand everything, is a modern voice, a new voice. The older voice says, do your day, take care of your people, pay attention as best you can, and then rest. Hunter-gatherers did not ask themselves what their legacy would be in the way we use that word now. They asked silently through their actions, have I fed the children? Have I shared what I have? Have I kept the stories alive? You are allowed to be small. You are allowed to do your piece and let the rest belong to time. Chapter 29. Rest as a real thing. In modern life, rest often means the absence of work. A blank spot in the calendar, quickly filled. Scrolling, checking, half watching something, half hearing someone. For early humans, rest was not an empty space to be filled. It was a presence, midday rest in the shade, when the sun was too strong to make more effort. Evening rest by the fire, the body warm and full, the mind engaged in stories, but the muscles loose and soft. Night rest broken into phases, with quiet waking periods that were unhurried, unjudged. Even their version of leisure, time not directly devoted to food or shelter, was full of meaning. Talking, singing, decorating tools, shaping ornaments, telling myths, teaching children. These were not side activities. They were part of what it meant to be a person. Researchers who analysed time use in forager groups found that 40 to 50% of daylight hours could be considered leisure by the narrow definition of not direct subsistence work. But that leisure was often active, social, creative, reflective, not purely passive. Rest in that world was not a guilty pleasure. It was part of the design. You are still wired for that. If you have ever sat with someone you trust, saying nothing much, no plan, no entertainment, just existing together, and felt something in you unclench, you have touched that older pattern. If you have ever taken a walk with no destination, just to move, and felt a softening in your thoughts, you have touched it again. It is not gone, it is waiting wherever you make a little space. Chapter 30. The nights we still carry. Think of a night long ago. A small band of humans lies under the stars. The fire has burned down to embers. The last story has faded into quiet. A few people are still awake, watching, listening. Most are drifting, not fully gone, but far enough that dreams are starting. The land around them is not completely safe. There are animals that could approach. There are other humans who might. There is weather. There is the simple fact of being fragile, soft bodies in a wide world. And yet, they sleep. Not because they are sure nothing bad will happen. Because they cannot live without trust. Trust in one another. That someone will watch the fire. That someone will stir at a strange sound. That someone will tend to a child who cries out, trusted in the patterns. That no end. Night will end, that morning will come, that the plants and animals and sky will keep doing what they have always done. Trust in their own bodies. That breath will follow breath. Heartbeat will follow heartbeat without needing to be managed. You right now are also lying in a world that is not completely safe. Different dangers, perhaps. Less likely to come from teeth and claws. More likely to come from numbers on a screen, from letters in a message, from thoughts in your own head, and yet you must sleep. Not because everything is solved, because you cannot live without rest. This is not weakness, it is the same old pattern, the same old choice. Close the eyes, trust a little in others, trust a little in the world, trust a little in your own body, and let go for a while. The people by that ancient fire did not know your name. They did not know you would exist. But they knew what it was to be tired, worried, and still have to sleep. They knew what it was to put down fear for a few hours. Not because it had disappeared, but because carrying it any longer without rest would be impossible. You are doing what they did. You are lying down under the same sky, even if you cannot see it. The thread between you is unbroken. The world turns slowly, and so do we. Now we are going to slow down. We are going to drift through images and thoughts that bring all of it together. Their lives, your life, and the long stretch of deep time that holds both. You do not need to stay fully awake. Let this last part be the quietest. Chapter 31. The circle and the line. Think of a circle, a group of people around a fire, children leaning against adults, adults leaning against logs or each other, the fire in the middle, the dark all around, stories rising and falling like waves. This is how human life looked for almost all of our history. Small, close circles, almost always within reach of touch, almost always within sound of familiar voices. Now think of a line, a timeline of human societies in a textbook. Hunter-gatherer, pastoral, horticultural, agricultural, industrial, post-industrial. On the page, it looks like a straight march from simple to complex. But life is not lived on a page. For the people inside those circles, there was no sense that they were early chapters in someone else's story. They were simply alive, in their present as you are alive in yours. The circle and the line are both true. On the long line of history, hunter-gatherers are our oldest mode of living, a way of life based on hunting wild animals and gathering wild plants, highly mobile, deeply dependent on the environment. On that line, agriculture and cities and states came later, changing our relationship to land, time, and each other. But inside the circle, right now, there is no before and after. There is only this fire, this face, this story. You are living at the thin, bright end of the line, but you still carry the circle inside you. Your nervous system, your social needs, the way your mind calms in certain places, and with certain people, all of it was shaped in those older circles. You do not have to choose between them. You can live with a sense of both. The long line that makes your worries small. The small circle that makes your life meaningful. Chapter 32. What we lost, what we kept. When people talk about hunter-gatherers now, they often do it with a mixture of longing and fear. Longing for the simplicity, fear of the hardship. The truth holds both. Hunter-gatherer life was fragile in ways ours is not. There were no hospitals, no antibiotics, no vaccines. A broken bone could be the beginning of the end. A bad season could be brutal. A complicated birth could take both mother and child. But it was also rich in ways our lives often are not. Rich in time, rich in close relationships, rich in meaningful movement, rich in contact with the natural world. When agriculture came, and later industry, we gained stability of food supply, larger communities, specialized knowledge, incredible technologies. We lost some of that richness. We traded a portion of our freedom and time for safety and surplus. The trade was not made once by a single person. It unfolded over thousands of years, through countless small decisions and accidents. No one sat at a table and chose this world over the old one. But here we are, You cannot step fully back into that earlier life without abandoning many things you likely value. Medicine, music, books, the ability to speak to someone on the other side of the world, the very device you are using now. You do not have to. Instead, you can ask a different question. Not, should we go back, but what did they have that we still need? The research gives some clues. They lived in small groups, often 20 to 30 people, with dense, meaningful social support. They moved their bodies every day in natural ways, walking, squatting, carrying, without exercise as a separate task. They ate mostly unprocessed plants and animals, with a wide variety of wild foods, few refined sugars, and natural periods of fasting when food was scarce. They spent time outside in changing light, which helped regulate their sleep and mood. Children grew up with multiple caregivers and mixed-age play, rarely alone, rarely under tight adult control. Their work was often varied, social, and self-directed, not repetitive tasks under strict supervision. You cannot copy this exactly, but you can echo it, spending more time with a small, stable group of people instead of only scattered contacts. Walking more, especially outside. Eating more simple, whole foods and fewer ultra-processed ones. Letting children play more freely with others. Allowing yourself unstructured time where nothing is scheduled and nothing productive has to happen. These are not lifestyle tips from a magazine. They are ways of letting an older wisdom surface in a very new world. Chapter 33. The quiet in your bones. There is a kind of quiet that does not depend on silence. Imagine a camp near a river. It is evening. People are talking softly, children are playing, the fire is crackling, insects are singing. The world is not silent, but there is no sharp edge to any of the sounds. Nothing is demanding your attention with urgency. Nothing is pulling at your mind from a screen in your hand. Nothing is asking you to respond now. Under the sounds, there is quiet. You can feel the ground under you. You can see the sky above you. You can taste the air, smell the smoke, feel the warmth on your face and the coolness on your back. Your body knows where it is. Your mind knows what is happening. Researchers who spend time with present-day hunter-gatherers often describe a sense of ease in their movements and expressions. Not because there is no stress, but because the stress that exists is clear and concrete. Hunger, weather, injury, social conflict, things that can be seen, named, faced as a group. Modern stress can feel different, vague, constant, coming from numbers in accounts, from future possibilities, from an endless flow of information we cannot fully process. We are not built for this long, low-level, invisible tension. That is why moments that bring your attention back to your body and Halsen's surroundings feel so powerful. A walk without headphones. Sitting near a window, watching light move across the floor, listening to a real human voice, slow and calm, telling you a story. Those moments are not luxury, they are medicine, somewhere inside you. Under the habits and worries of your personal life, there is a layer of you that is very old. Bones and nerves and cells, patterned by millions of years of other days and other nights. That layer hums at a certain tempo. Not fast, not slow, steady. When you match it, even a little, you feel it as relief. As if something that has been bent for too long is finally allowed to straighten. You do not have to renounce your life to feel this. You just have to notice. Chapter 34. Watching from far away. Imagine you are looking at Earth from very far away, so far that you cannot see individuals, or cities, or even continents at first. Just a small blue-white sphere turning slowly in darkness. You watch it for a while. On a scale of minutes, it spins. Day, night, day, night. On a scale of years, you see seasons, clouds, snow lines creeping and retreating. On a scale of thousands of years, you see ice sheets grow and melt. Forests expand, then shrink. Grasslands appear where there were once seas. On a scale of hundreds of thousands of years, you begin to see something else. Tiny flickers of firelight moving across dark land. Small bands of humans migrating, splitting, joining, leaving almost no trace from your high vantage point. Then, very recently, in the last thin slice of your watching, something changes. Lights bloom, not just fires but artificial stars along coasts, in clusters connected by lines, cities. The glow spreads quickly. From far enough away, the difference between those tiny scattering of early fires and the vast electric web of modern light is small. From far enough away, both are just signs of a creature that learned how to hold on to light for a little while, to push back the dark. From far enough away, the lives of individual humans blur together. The person sitting under a tree 10,000 years ago, after a day of walking, watching the sunset, is not so different from you sitting by a window, watching the same. Both are moments of being, of noticing, of existing inside time instead of chasing ahead of it. Deep time can make you feel small, but it can also make your burdens feel lighter. You are one small flicker on a small world that has been turning long before you, and will keep turning long after. You do not have to carry everything. You just have to be this flicker for this brief moment. That is enough. Chapter 35. Coming back to the fire, let's come down again. Back to the ground. Back to the circle. The people around the fire are ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. They are early humans, but they are also just people. Someone is bad at jokes, but tells them anyway. Someone is a gifted storyteller, able to make the whole group hold its breath with a pause. Someone is shy and speaks little, but when they do, everyone listens. Someone is very good with their hands, always making small, clever tools. Someone has a laugh that pulls laughter out of everyone else. If you met them now, dressed like you might not think of them as primitive at all. You might recognize your friend in the way one person teases. You might recognize your uncle in the way another person sits and watches. You might recognize yourself in the way someone stares into the fire, lost in thought, while conversations move around them. We sometimes draw thick lines between us and them, between modern and ancient, as if their minds were simpler, their feelings thinner. The evidence says otherwise. Their societies were complex, their social networks were dense, their emotional lives were rich. The tools they made required planning and imagination. The art they left behind, painted animals, carved figures, handprints on cave walls, carries a depth of feeling we can still sense across tens of thousands of years. You are not standing on top of them. You are standing beside them at a different point in time. They are not behind you, looking forward. They are next to you, looking up at the same stars, asking the same questions in their own words. What is this? How long do we have? What matters? Who will remember me when I am gone? You may answer those questions differently. You may have different words and different stories. But the questions themselves are old, older than agriculture, older than writing, as old as fire. Chapter 36. A day in your hands. We have been talking about their days. Now we gently turn toward yours. Tomorrow, or whatever day comes after you hear this, will probably not look like a hunter-gatherer day. You may wake to an alarm, you may commute, you may sit at a desk or stand in a shop. You may scroll through feeds and answer messages and deal with people who do not know you and do not love you, but need things from you anyway. You cannot change all of that, but you might be able to change one small thing. Maybe, in the morning before you look at a screen, you step outside for 3 minutes, just to feel the air and the light, the way your ancestors did every day, without choosing. Maybe you walk somewhere you would usually drive, letting your body move the way it was built to move. Maybe you cook one simple meal with whole foods, roots, grains, vegetables, a piece of meat or beans, and eat it slowly as if it mattered. Maybe you sit with someone you care about, with no goal but to be there and let the conversation patient wander, like morning gatherers moving through familiar land. Maybe at night, you turn off the extra lights for a while. You watch the sky if you can see it. Or you just sit in a dim room, letting your eyes rest, letting your mind feel the day gently closing. These are small things. They will not remake the world, but they are ways of remembering what you are. Not a machine, not a task list. A human being, a very old kind of being, doing a very new thing. Living here, now, with all of this complexity, and still needing the basic ingredients that have always kept us alive. Movement, food, connection, story, rest. Chapter 37. The softest part. We are very near the end now. Not of the story of humans, just of this telling. The fire that has been burning in your mind since we started can go on. It has been going on for more than 1,000,000 years. It will keep going in other stories, in other nights, in other voices. You do not have to hold it. You can let it burn on its own, in the background, like a quiet knowing. If your eyes are closed, you can leave them closed. If they are open, you can let them half close, that soft, heavy feeling of being halfway between waking and sleep. The people around the ancient fire are lying down now. One by one, they are letting their heads rest on folded arms, on rolled skins, on the earth itself. The last few voices fade. A child sighs, a long, warm breath. Someone turns over, pulls a wrap closer. The embers glow. Above, the stars are patient, as they have always been. You are lying somewhere else, in another time, under another ceiling, but the shape of this moment is the same. A long day behind you, another day ahead, but not yet. A body that has done enough, a mind that has carried enough. You are part of a chain of sleepers that stretches back through every night and every season of human history. You are allowed to join them. You are allowed to stop, for now, to let the world take care of itself for a while. To trust that the thread between you and everything else will still be there when you wake. The world turns slowly, and so do we.